Welcome back everyone. Today we are going to play 2 Space, a GTNH add-on. This quick video will focus mostly on the new additions of that extra mod. And without further ado, our first highlight is an alternative version for a multi-block Steam for Jammer. But even before we look into it, the spotlight is quickly taken by the largest Steam alloy smelter. This expensive machine can do up to 48 parallels, requiring 1 amp of HV power to not void all of our bronze. All that power is being generated by our new multi-block solar boiler, which we'll see better later on. Moving on, we can use some expensive but efficient basic steam generators to power our EBFs. While this new generator can reach over unit energy efficiency, it doesn't turn itself off when the load is removed, and also can only produce LV power. So in MV we had to go back to steam turbines to overvolt our EBF. Next, after we centralized power and did one more EBF upgrade, we set up some automation to properly craft enough circuits for our next highlight, the Eye of Wood. This machine will produce many random resources in exchange of a lot of lava. However, due to how limited the options for sourcing lava are, even the machine itself is wondering if that trade is worth it. Moving to an even more questionable machine, I shall present you the Mega Brick Blast Furnace. This machine will require you to fuel it coal to produce steel at whatever speed you can feed it, until it decides to live up to its name, bricking itself. Back to actual progress, we moved on from using solar boilers to some high efficiency natural gas generators. Those will keep up our new small AHU system while we move on to the personal dimension. Here we will meet two old friends we lost a long time ago, the processing factory and the processing array. And thanks to a twist in space, we can also use dual input buses to ease automation. Next, we proceeded into building the usual infrastructure, which this time will be powered by the lightning spire. Unlike lightning rods, this bigger version doesn't require a thunderstorm to generate energy. It will however require a little bit of cryoton to cool down and some iron for the periodic repairs. Next, we made a mega distillation tower where we on-demand every sort of distillation, from plotline to oil processing. This was also made easier thanks to the advanced Mega Oil Cracker, which removes the strict requirements for input placements. Then we built a maximum size advanced cleanroom. And if you thought this is big and wide enough to make you go crazy, well, you didn't think yet of the cost of those filters. Unlike a normal cleanroom, this one has no maintenance and no energy cost. Next, to keep up with our everything mainnet on-demand run, we built a mega chemical reactor before we even finish our first fusion reactor. Once we reach fusion, we built an advanced circuit assembly lines, which has no input order requirement and can hold multiple imprints. And if you thought this was overpowered, well, the next machine is mind-blowing. I shall present you the nether interface. Just look at the output and the NEI crafting recipe. Moving on, we did a little bit of magic, just enough to get a laser meteor miner. This multiblock will quickly dig meteors, one row at a time with a bonus fortune of 3. Next, to increase our magic automation speed, we build an industrial magic matrix, which can use aura nodes and laser tier energy to speed up magic infusions. Thanks to this machine, we can now make dozens of infusions per second. We also traded the risk of flux production with the risk of power fail. And if that machine was going to make you scream bloody hell, well, keep that for our next machine, which is literally called bloody hell. As the name and all of that blood suggest, this machine will process blood magic elder recipes. And unlike the previous one, it doesn't even require energy to work. While I think those two are probably the best looking multi-blocks I ever seen in modded Minecraft, those are not the only good looking multi-blocks added by Twist Space. We also have stuff like the Ecosphere Growth Simulator, capable of making hundreds of thousands of logs per second while using a single amp of UV energy. Next to it, we have the large industrial cooking factory, which can do cook oven recipes with maximum parallel. But that's not the only machine capable of doing integer 32 parallel. We also have a sifter, a mixer, a fluid heater, and a fluid extractor that doubles as fluid solidifier capable of doing that. And if you thought integer 32 parallel was too overpowered, well, we also have machines capable of doing perfect overclock, like the electrolyzer that also doubles as a centrifuge. Finally, to conclude the series of overpowered multiblocks, we also have a machine that does chemical reactor recipes for 1/10 of the energy cost. And on top of that, it also has some custom recipes that allow you to skip most of the chemical line processing steps. Moving to some more complicated multiblocks, we have this well-used forge, which uses pyrotium to increase its heat capacity. While doing so, it also gains some energy discount, making neutronium super cheap. And of course, to cool down all of those hot ingots, we also have a heat devourer machine. We also have a laser power laser that someday will achieve perfect overclock. And a 4-in-1 metal working machine that at some point will accept laser energy. And of course, 4-in-1 means we have to build 4 of those. We also have a wire mill that will grow its parallel count by becoming longer. And the last UV multiblock we built is a dehydrator and vacuum furnace. And this one also will increase its parallel by becoming taller. Next we made some mega bacterial vats. Those can make some quite big batches, which require some fine tweaking of the amount of fluid held in the output hatch to reach optimal efficiency. And with that, we can now afford the mega cutting machine and the mega polarizer, in their smaller form. And yes, those two can grow in size to achieve more parallels or speed. Next, after building a mega assembly line, which doesn't require input separation and can do 128 parallels, we go back to our laser, which can make the cheapest DTPF fuel ever by stacking the speed bonus from each of the casing upgrades. The other issue you normally have with DTPFs is raw infinity catalyst. As usual, Twist offers a new multiblock to help with that, the General Ore Processing TST, which multiplies the output of pure raw ores by 4. It also gives a crazy amount of gems from gem ores. And on top of that, it can also do infinite parallels, keeping up with our new star core miner, capable of producing a crazy amount of minerals. To keep up with the new power requirement, we started working on an actual Dyson sphere. To do so, we used the Dyson launcher structure to send solar sails into space. And once we have some orbiting our star, we can start collecting that energy through our Dyson receiver dish. And it was then that we realized that this is not going to produce any meaningful amount of energy. We could improve our output by building our Dyson sphere around a better star, but the output would only be 10 times more, which is still thousands of times less than what will be meaningful to us. At the same time, making enough solar sails with proper module management is prohibitively expensive for the moment. So, instead of turning those solar rays into energy, we started turning those into critical photons, which you can use to craft a bunch of machines or for a better energy source, antimatter. After our failed attempt at a new way of getting energy, we went back to our trusty Nakoda fuel. And here we can easily merge all of the laser dynamos of our generator using laser smart nodes. Next, we use the super cheap battery recipes to quickly craft our gorge, which for the moment isn't much useful since the Mega Volcano is about 1000 times more energy efficient, and the Entropy Destroyer has no problem cooling down an endless amount of hot ingots. The other usage the gorge won't be able to show off for a while is its plasma making capacity. This time we can quickly put an end to the growth of our fusion tunnel with the tier 3 ball lightning, capable of making crazy amount of plasma for super cheap. And that, combined with the other Twist multiblocks, will make producing the DTPF fuel basically free. To put all of that stuff to good use, we needed a miracle on top of our assembly lines. The miracle top will perfectly overclock the crafting of any circuit or circuit part, overwhelming even a machine whose only purpose was to prevent power failing circuit conversion. Anyways, with this we can now start our Eye of Harmony progression, which we can speed up thanks to 3 new machines. The first one is the Astral Computing Array, which will greatly speed up our research thanks to its huge liquid-cooled rack. Next we have the Twist Large Disassembler, which can uncraft anything that was made in an assembler or assembly line, helping us recover some of the valuable materials contained inside our old Eye of Harmony casing. Finally, to power all of this, we started building a Dyson sphere around a bigger star, endlessly shooting more and more mirrors around it. This Dyson sphere setup has no upkeep costs, but by sending more mirrors we can increase our energy production super linearly. However, there is a limit at how much energy each receiving station can collect, so we had to build a few more of those. This will give our Eye of Harmony progression a huge push, but it will still leave us with enough time to work on new multiblocks, such as the Matter Manipulator Genesis, which can either produce concentrated EU matter or huge amounts of normal EU matter. Next we have the Miracle Door, which will do alloy glass smelter recipes to ingot with infinite parallel. Then we made a micro space-time fabricator, which makes a couple of new parts and cheaper tesseracts. Finally, we have the Super Water Purifier, which will make our waterline redundant. And after a few more upgrades and some waiting time, we finally got to the point where we have some leftover astral arrays, which we can use to boost some machines like the Star Core Miner or the Dyson Sphere Ray receiving stations. And on that subject, we also figure out a better way of converting all of that sunlight into energy. We start by concentrating it all into critical photons. Then, after turning those into antimatter in the Miracle Top, we build a strange matter aggregator where we can pack that antimatter into fuel rods. And this process surely does produce a huge amount of Universum as byproduct. And finally, we burn the antimatter in an artificial star. Doing so can yield an amount of power that can go even higher than integer 64 energy units per tick. Going back to our base, we built a prototype for a better DTPF. And the main gimmick this one has is that it can host some modules to boost its working properties. But even though we don't have the perfect singularity overclock module, we can't run it long enough to even consider reaching its 75% fuel discount. Next, we built the Nano Core, which with its perfect overclock will save us from having to automate the Nanoforge Tier 4. But the real game changer was the indistinct tentacle, which can do any amount of assembly recipes in a fixed amount of time. And with this, we quickly crafted 100 astral arrays in a single crafting job. And even though making astral arrays was that easy, we realized we can use more unconventional ways. For starters, with the crazy amount of energy at our disposal, we can afford overclocking a 200 astral array Eye of Harmony. But since making Universum like that is still too normal, we upgraded our matter aggregator so that it will make a bit more Universum as byproduct. And while both running and crafting that machine is relatively cheap, building and chunk loading it was the real hassle. And with that, we can finally start crafting our first Stargate, all in one craft. We then proceeded into liquefying it, and don't worry about the time and energy requirements of such operations. All of our machines are perfectly overclocking and are powered by the legendary Warrior Hatch, which will make anything craftable in one tick. And just like that, we obtained the last item of this pack, the Twist Token. And I guess that was it. See you next time, bye bye.